I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending October the 25th, where calves totally dominated receipts in the country, but especially in the sales and especially in the mountain states and the northern plains, where those calves, spring-born calves, are just moving in droves. Huge calf sales all over that country there. Prices there and throughout the nation pretty much unevenly steady. I hate to have to call it that, but it just was that way. We saw some gains, especially in those big special calf sales in the northern plains there in the mountain states, and we saw some gains on calf sales in parts of the southeast too, but also had some losers and probably in the plains more than anywhere, and on your bigger steer calves weighing over 500 pounds. But your heifer calves were pretty much steady to higher everywhere, and that just goes to show there's better demand for the heifer calves right now. Comparisons are difficult again this week, because if we go back to a week ago, we were still in the government shutdown for a lot of your bigger sales that are federally reported there. So a lot of those bigger sales did not have a good comparison, and starting next week, we'll fully be back to business as usual and have good comparisons and good trends, hopefully, on all of our feeder cattle sales. Yearling cattle are just hard to come by. Extremely tight numbers of true yearling cattle. Now, there's some big calves, especially up in the northern states there, but true yearling type cattle and especially green conditioned yearling cattle coming off grass, and those that haven't been supplementally fed or coming out of a growing lot or something like that, hard to find and still heavily demanded. But it seems like this yearling deal really hit its all-time high there about a month ago, and I'm not sure if we've just hit the extreme high for as high as yearlings can go for the way things are. A lot of people seem to think that. We're seeing some monster highs, $180 7-weight yearling steers in some spots, and 8 weights bringing up in the 60s and even up in the 70s on some of them. It's just as high as they can go right now. And even though the buyers still want them rather than the calves, that's just as high as they're willing to go, and there's just not enough of them around to really get excited about putting a lot of them together. But a lot of big calf sales out in the west and up in the northern plains there, and really seeing a lot of big strings of calves. And that's one thing you still see in the Dakotas and western Nebraska and in Colorado, Wyoming, and not so much Montana since the northern video has gotten so popular, but you still see a lot of big strings of calves come to town and go through the sale. And we're seeing a lot of good demand in those sales for those calves. Your heifer retention is really high right now, so we're seeing smaller percentages of the calves, especially being heifers. So that's less of those calves, heifer calves, for your traditional feeder heifer buyers to buy. A lot of your feeder cattle guys have always bought heifers, and they just migrate towards the heifers more, usually in an effort to keep price per head down and to get away from that steer demand. But right now there's less heifers out there. You're getting more competition from guys that are planning on breeding some heifers, so they're coming into those better into heifers, your replacement quality types, and that's keeping your heifer market really higher in comparison than your steers on the better kind. In Phillips, South Dakota, big calf sale up there, over 12,000 head in a one-day auction there, and the market was good, and that's one of the markets that did call higher, which would be whenever they get those big strings of reputation ranch calves in there. But of all those good calves in there, and they had some yearlings too, but you just think about the top quality 5-weight steers. They had over 3,350 head of top quality 5-weight steer calves, which is just unbelievable. But when you have over 12,000 head of cattle, but in those 3,350 top quality 5 weights, they average 549 pounds at 191.01, which is really getting up to some of those top calf prices that we saw there a year or two ago. Now on your heifers, a lot of 4-weight replacement quality types where they'll background them and keep them for 6, 8, 9 months there, and really have those heifers like they want and get some age on them before they decide which ones that they're wanting to breed there. But a lot of 4-weight replacement quality little heifer calves, had over 500 of them. They averaged 478 pounds at 195.53. So that's almost $2 a pound on those little replacement heifer calves. But just a lot of disparaging difference between those better calves like the ones we've been talking about, those big strings of calves, those big consignments of calves that have really been handled right, and then those small odd consignments of little balling calves that haven't had the shots that they need and are not weaned. And in a lot of cases those big strings of calves are not weaned too, but there's enough of them, and the way they've been handled and the vaccination programs that they've been on, they're just not as much trouble. But these small producers need to think about adding value to their calves, and I know they see it in every livestock publication that they pick up, but they just need to do it. One of the greatest things about the beef cattle production business is a guy can do it in his spare time. If you've got a full-time job in town, or you're a full-time row crop farmer, or whatever you're doing, you can also have a few cattle, if you've got the ability and a place to do it. But if you're a small producer and need to do that, you've got to wean those calves for over 45 days. 30-day wean is not considered weaned anymore. 45 days at least. And give those calves 2 rounds of shots. And make sure that people know it when you get ready to sell too. It doesn't do you any good if folks don't know it. But one of the biggest things they need to do is try to increase the lot size whenever they sell those calves. Either by narrowing their calving window of their own calves where they have some bigger lots to sell, or a lot of places have commingled programs. I know Joplin Regional Stockyards has a commingling program for smaller producers where they just have a few calves. They can throw them in with some calves with smaller producers just like them, and come up with some bigger lot sizes that'll do these buyers some more good and help do the buyer's job for them of putting those calves together. But we always think about the Southeast selling calves quite a bit back and wondering whether that's because those are crossbred calves. But if you think about it, the Southeastern producer may be in better shape than the guys in the plains and the Midwest. They can get full market value for one calf. And guys in other parts of the country would love to do that. But you guys in the Southeast don't have it too bad. You're getting full market value for one calf from those order buyers. Your fat cattle are starting to show some profit now again. As this week fat cattle market didn't just break the all-time record high, it shattered the all-time record high, most recently set in early May there. But this week, fat cattle on a live basis sold from 131 all the way up to 134. Bought cattle in multiple days, which you don't always see, and the market got progressively higher. On a dress basis, your sales are at 208 in the beef. Regional weighted averages this week in the north central states, your big 6-weight calves brought 176.26 compared to 174.91 last week and 151.54 a year ago. Down in the south central states and the plains, 5-weight steer calves brought 176.71 compared to 175.51 last week and 157.31 a year ago. Down in the southeast, 4-weight steer calf cost you 174.20 compared to 172.15 last week and 152.66 a year ago. That wraps up your feeder and stocker cattle market summary for this week. Check out our website for more market information at marketnews.usda.gov. And from the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.